Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Dracovin Empire. We're heading back into the desert world of Athas for more Dark Sun today. Are you ready to visit a new, interesting location in Dark Sun? Well, join my hand, Cantus Dracovin, your guide here, as we're heading for green. Yes, we're heading for the Forest Ridge today. A massive area of water, green, and life how Athas may have been before the great apocalypse that turned most of it into a desert. So join my hand today as we activate our planar portals. Grab your obsidian weapons, pair your psionics, and keep an eye out for creatures of the silt. We're heading back to Athas, to the desert world. So, now that we're in Athas once again, let's head to the Forest Ridge. What is the Forest? Well, before we begin, I will shout out the major book I'm using for this one, the campaign setting book. I'm not going to lie, I use this for, at very least 75% of my research on all these topics. I go a little bit beyond that, hitting up some D&D topics if there's anything interesting for them, but this provides the best picture and simplest picture that I'm going to set. Most of what I say is going to be in here. I would recommend, looking to AD&D for some older books. Maybe I'll start looking at this, suggesting some old AD&D books. Anyway, so what is the Forest Ridge? Well, on this map here, it's that big green area above the mountains. And if you're down in the tablelands, if you're down in the area around the various city-states, there are rumors of a vast wilderness beyond the ringing mountains, where rain falls every day, trees grow so tall and thick the sunlight struggles to shine through the canopy. But most people, most Athasians, doubt that this fantastical place exists on their dying world. But it does. Beneath the peaks of the ringing mountains is the Forest Ridge, a region unlike anywhere in Athas. It's wild, verdant, dense jungles choked with vines, bracken, brambles, countless species of animals and plants. This is a glimpse of old Athas. Life, wonder, water, still this is no haven. The dim light shining through the tangled browse does little to reveal the dangers in the shadows behind the beautiful colors. It's a jungle out, and the competition is fierce, and denizens have to adapt or be devoured. It's got deadly predators, both plant and animal, that camouflage themselves in hundreds of ways in the dense canopy of undergrowth. And much like the rest of Athas, Forest Ridge is filled with a lot of ruins. Mountain roads, mighty colossi, hidden citadels carved by ancient hands, unexplored jungles, and remnants of a long-lost Halfling civilization. Yeah, we'll talk about the Halflings in the jungle there. They had an ancient civilization. Now let's talk about the creatures here. Now this is a nice plant here, a blood. But we kind of first talk about where the creatures live and what kind of environment this is. So it's hot, but moist climate. Gentle drizzles in the morning air, rainstorms in the afternoon. The temperature does sometimes drop below freezing, much like it does on the other side of the ringing mountains, but it's never excruciating. And so you can get maybe a couple of inches of snow in a single night before it warms up again. The chill being not too intense is basically connected to the fact that the canopy allows in a lot of heat. So the midday heat could be some 30 or 40 degrees lower than that of the lowlands, because, it retains that heat, but it also shields a lot of the excess heat of the ringing mountains and the areas above. Water is abundant. Humidity is in the air. Beads of water cling to everything. Brooks echo throughout the area and plunge down into rivers. And the big thing you have to worry about here is, if you're in this area, you are still very high up in altitude. Mountain sickness is a big problem, as it is on the eastern sides of the cliff. Lack of oxygen because your extreme heights when you're up in this plateau, which is the Forest Ridge. That's the environment things live here. And what lives here? Well, and amongst it's a lot of firs and birch trees are big, covered in vines, thick undergrowth of bamboo, brackens, brambles, moss layered on black soil, flowers and trees bore strange fruits. The shrubbery rarely allows one to actually, be on the ground. You're always talking about moving through plants. Vegetation so thick that you have to cut a path through it. It's a lot. If you stepped into this from the rest of Athas, you would not understand it. This is green and rich colors compared to the ruddy browns and reds of the tablelands. Canopy could be very dense, so only streaks of light, and that can kind of hide the dangers of everything else, and the plants themselves too. There's thousands of species of snakes, birds, frogs, rodents in the jungles, a lot being small and skittish, and no real threat. Many of the small creatures of most plants could still cause injury, as a lot of them are also poisonous! Yay, poison! So you could basically not only involve things biting or slashing with poison, you could also breathe in some kind of foul toxin from some kind of strange creature. But the predators are the big thing here. There are the dangers, and there are some smaller predators. That might not be some dangers because of the lesser creatures, but it's the big predators, the tops of the food game, that are really the big thing here. And it's noisy too. Lots of noise of creatures and animals. Again, this is an alien world to the rest of Athas. This is a kind of place that if you're not from here, or you haven't had the chance to visit here, you would not understand. It is an alien and dangerous world to you. That is completely different than anything you've ever seen. Sure, you can find small gardens and green pastures, maybe farmland, but it isn't this. Now, the majority of inhabitants of the Forest Ridge are Halflings. They're the most notorious too. They have small settlements scattered throughout the jungle. They thrive in the forest. They're not really big on interlopers. They have poisoned weapons, booby traps, strange magics to kill them people. But these tribes of the jungle, they have a rich culture. They're of an ancient people. They're not the primitives or cannibals that a lot of other people see them as. They don't live in squalor. They have traditions and ways of doing things here. They have a preference for primal forest spirits of the land, which are numerous and aware more than anywhere else in Athens. They exist here. They're also protectors of the forest. Each have powerful shamans and druids that stand close to their chief and protecting them. But that doesn't say that there aren't connections to some of those rumors. Again, the rumors of them being primitive cannibals, bloodthirsty cannibals, does exist. It's the fact is that there are some tribes of halflings in the Forest Ridge that are basically content to be murderous savages who gleefully devour travelers. But there are others who are willing to trade with lowlanders and treat them with respect. You have juxtapositions between the groups that are there. The majority of halflings of the Forest Ridge, though, are wary of outsiders and, might be kind of jealous of some of the things that they have and can bring in here. Lethally so. Basically, a typical tribe would have little contact with people beyond the forest. It regards unwanted travelers who blunder through its territory as fair game for the stew pot most of the time. Basically, they usually seek to capture intruders alive, present them as an exotic catch to the village and king. A reasonable tribe gives their prisoners a chance to explain why they shouldn't be eaten. A more savage one might just torment you until you end up in the pot. So, again, it's a very big juxtaposition between who you end up with in the Forest Ridge. Yeah. Now, the Colossi. This isn't a very good picture of one of them. This is a different D&D jungle ruin picture, but effectively, the eastern marches of the Forest Ridge are protected by a chain of colossi half buried in the jungle. These statues that anchor the ancient primal ward against defiling magic which has Athas. Halfling shamans say that their ancestors created these to safeguard the homeland against the cleansing wars, and to this day the defiler kings of the lowlands cannot defeat it. The ward still functions, but doesn't appear to prevent defiler magic from working. However, if you use defiler magic in the Forest Ridge, you find that the jungle turns against yourself. Savage burgers, carnivorous plants, deadly snares can best those who use defiling magic in the forest itself. The magic of the forest turns on anybody that attempts to defile it. If you try there, basically the protections of the forest will devour you. Another reason no one really tries to bother with it. And those great colossi still protect it to this day. Now, what's in the Forest Ridge? That's a great question. Because it is a great plateau or highland. And it is about 10,000 feet up. Yeah. Again, much cooler, much higher up than the lowlands of the Tier region, of the region we know about. Now the ringing mountains intercept the westerly winds, and the little moisture they carry. The traveler climbing from the tablelands through the pass of the mountain range, walls of clouds bunch up behind the peaks ahead, and rumbles of thunder echo in the distance, and you finally get yourself into them. It descends thousands of feet beneath the scrub of the western hinterlands. As you get hotter and drier until the trees give out. So basically, you cross over, you go through the area, and you get hotter and drier as you leave. There are 4 locations I can talk about, which are known and interesting to visit in the Forest Ridge. Ogo is the first one. It's a prosperous tribe of almost 4,000 halflings. This is the heart of a massive ruined step pyramid that has stood for as long as the town lore keepers have recorded. A shrine at the base houses the Spirit Oracle, a female halfling druid of unknown ability who spends much of her time in communing with primal powers. Such as her reputation that even individuals from beyond the Forest Ridge seek her out for advice. The remainder of Ogo is composed of a scattering of stone and wooden buildings and open-air plazas. The halflings here sometimes deal with outsiders, are less likely than others to clans to grab visitors and tie them up for dinner. Every year, King Ergazopodal sends a levy of 200 halfling warriors to King Hamaru in Uruk in exchange for a shipment of obsidian weapons and tools. The warriors who choose to return to Ogo after their stint in Uruk have a more cosmopolitan view of the world, and since this arrangement has been ongoing for the past few years, hundreds of halflings of Ogo share this experience. So the halflings of Ogo are learning of the outside world, they're bringing it back. It's a thing here. This is a much more reasonable location, civilized, at least in comparison to the kind of civilization as it would be in traditional Athas ideas, halflings. Because they have their own civilization, own way of doing things, own beliefs, that is as civilized as they want to be in their eyes. They are civilized. Again, it's not entirely thing. But in comparison to the rest of Athas, they are different. Again, the rest of Athas being civilized is a kind of hard thing to say, too. Athas isn't a very civilized place. But seems Ogo is an interesting place that is semi-connected to us. Now, the next area I want to talk about is the Crystal Forest. This area of the Forest Ridge, the plants and trees here have been transmuted into translucent minerals centuries ago, a side effect between an arcane defiler and a druid. In the years since, many of the tallest trees have fallen and scattered, creating a field of razor-sharp crystal spikes across a few square miles of this lifeless zone. Creatures made of conglomerate of mineral shards stalk the crystal forest, and sometimes venture into the edge in search of prey. At the center of this region stands an obsidian plateau that hosts the ruined cliff wall. Ghost winds and spirits howl about the plateau, and ancient magic wards yet burn. Those who stand atop the plateau find their flesh slowly hardening to lifeless mineral, and must flee before the change becomes complete. So it's not a great place to visit. The Temple of the Sky Serpent is the top of 5 of 6 steps of the Great Pyramid. The top 5 or 6 steps of a Great Pyramid that rise out of the jungle is the Temple of the Sky Serpent. Most of the structure remains buried beneath the forest floor. The pyramid is usually sealed tight, but persistent explorers occasionally bypass its magic wards and gain entry. Inevitably, reported maze of stone tunnels that seemingly go on forever, opening an empty chamber after empty chamber. When 2 moons of Athas align in a certain way above the pyramid's apex, you see the entrance gate wide, issuing forth green light and hypnotic music. At such times, Yanti priests emerge from the Temple of the Sky Serpent to practice abominable rites atop their shrine. Yanti war parties range far into the surrounding jungle. And finally, Kol Turklug. Well, it's a volcano. A dramatic volcano in Forest Ridge. Plumes of ash swirl over. At most times, the mountain is quiet, but now and again a cloud of ash and smoke pour from the apex and swells around. When this occurs, nearby halfling tribes mount an expedition to the summit and throw several living sacrifices into the caldera. Believe that this will methodically the only way to quiet Kolgog of this fiery trip, a terrible elemental creature that layers in the fiery caverns of the volcano that bears its name. Ancient wars of primal magic trap the mighty being in the mountain, but the defenses have weakened over the centuries, and elemental grows restless. There you go. There's the Forest Ridge. Again, there isn't a lot to the Forest Ridge that we can sort of talk about. Certainly speaking, if you dive back into AD&D, you can figure out some more creatures and stuff and maybe get a little bit more information. But from what I looked up briefly, there wasn't a lot more on it. It's an interesting region because it is alien and anathema to much of Athas. When we think of Athas and we think of Dark Sun, we think of the ruined, defiled desert world where this horrible magic has caused all the green water to die and caused it to become this apocalyptic place where city-states around wells basically burst up with these powerful sorcerer kings at the forefront of it. It is a mess. It is a terrible mess. Forest Ridge remains this strange place up in the mountains filled with water and life protected by magics, and a dangerous place to visit. But a place of ancient wonders, just as there are ancient wonders down in normal Athens. A place of creatures, of life, alien to most people of Athens. It's an interesting place to see exists, and to know about it, to learn about it. Because, heck, maybe your characters that have to adventure the Forest Ridge face its dangers to do some kind of quest, some kind of mission. Hard to say. There's a lot of reasons to travel, a lot of reasons to explore them, a lot of reasons to be connected. And certainly you could always come from the Forest Ridge. Maybe you were a halfling slinger, that after your time working in Uruk, instead of coming back to Ogo, you went on your way. Or maybe you're a trader that was dealing with the halfling tribes in the Forest Ridge, that you are a friend to multiple tribes. Hard to say. There's a lot of reasons to do that. A lot of things to do. But regardless, that is Athas and the Forest Ridge. And I hope you enjoyed learning that. But that'll be it for today. Yeah, the Forest Ridge is a really interesting one. I read a little bit about it, but diving deeper into it and reading up more, it's like, wow, this is so much cooler than I thought it was. This was the green area I knew about. The real big green area. But again, there's a lot of cool areas, and I think talking about these regions, more than just the city-states, is an important idea for talking about this region. Yes, it's the tier region. Yes, we don't know much outside the tier region. We don't really have a lot of information on Athas as a whole. And it's one small region of a massive world, but it's a world that's been defiled, destroyed, and maybe there's more places like this in the future. And maybe I'll try to dive deeper into some of those other areas, learn more about them, and finish up and go over all these with that. But for now, I hope you enjoyed learning about the Forest Ridge, and hope you enjoyed joining me. If you want to see my schedule for things when I go live, either on Twitch or over up on YouTube, hey, it's up on my Discord, on Twitter/X, and my YouTube, where I put this schedule up of live on Twitch and when things are uploaded on YouTube. If you're over on Twitch, hey, that'll be great. If you're over on YouTube, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Those are the big things to shout out. My question for today is, what do you think of the Forest Ridge as an interesting area? Have you had any time in your Dark Sun adventures where you went there? Or does it inspire you in some way of some kind of adventure? Hey, maybe you want to go to that serpent thing and find out where the secret beyond the temple is, or something like that. Thoughts and ideas. If you want to see what's going on, updates on schedule, cat pics, other little things like that, that is my Discord, that is my Twitter/X, that's where you can find that information. Other things to shout out that I do want to normally shout out, Crimson Queen at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. Check that out, live play of Pathfinder 1st Edition. And of course, Discussing Tabletop Saturdays at 6, where we talk about news of the week, deeper discussions on table. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this visit to Athas once more, and you're going to join me in the future when I visit more places in Athas, more locations, other role-playing worlds, other tabletop worlds. But until the next time, we chat, we learn more. I bid you all out there a deep and wonderful farewell.